I have a 2010 Kia Rio, won't go uphill, and it's shaking a lot. Scan the computer system. I'm coming up with code P0303, and that's number 3 cylinder misfire. Plan of attack on this vehicle is remove the old coils, remove the old spark plugs, and install new coils and new plugs. I'll also explain a simple step that you can take to make sure that it's a bad coil or maybe a spark plug or something else. The tools you're going to require to accomplish this job: a 3/8 ratchet, an extension, probably 6 inches, a 5/8 socket, 10mm socket, a magnet tool, maybe a light of some sort, and dielectric grease, which is optional. The top cover on the engine, there's 3 bolts. Those are 10mm bolts. We're going to go ahead and just remove those bolts. Once the bolts are removed, cover can come off. There's a rack here that has to come out of the way because this here is your coils. And to get these last 2 coils, 3 and 4 out, we're going to have to remove this out of the way. 3 10mm bolts need to be removed. Now you can move this up and out of the way so you can get to these. You're going to find that it might be trash in here, leaves, dirt, whatever. It's a good idea to have this blown out before you remove any coils. I use my leaf blower to blow off the engine, and it works really good. To get the coils out, you have to remove the connector to each coil. To get these off, I'm going to pop this tab out. Then you can push the tab in, and then you can slide that right out. All the connectors are the same. Number 3 cylinder is the one that's having an issue, right? The one that's misfiring. What you could do is take this coil and move it over to number 1, and then move number 1 to number 3 and see if you get a code for number 1 misfire. If you don't, then that coil is probably okay. If you do, then you know for sure that that coil is no good. Other things that could cause a misfire would be a bad connection to the coils, bad spark plugs. As you can see, these coils are all different, right? These look original. That one looks original. This one looks like it's been replaced at one time. And this one looks like it's been replaced also. Today, I'm going to replace all 4. 10mm bolt, 1 bolt per coil. I'm going to remove those bolts. Now we can just pull up the coils. Sometimes they can be stuck and do not want to come out. So you're going to need 2 hands to pull it up. Using a 5/8 spark plug socket, we're going to go in here and take out the spark plugs. Now, if the spark plugs don't come up with the socket, you can just use a magnet and pick them out of there. They're worn, but they're not fouled. New spark plugs. They've already been gapped. I have a video on how to do that. Link will be in the description below. I am going to recommend that you use some anti-seize on the spark plug threads. Just a little dab will do. Now you got to be careful in getting these started. You do not want to cross thread them. Once you think the spark plugs are in correctly, snug them down. Okay, once you hand tighten these to where the spark plug is touching the head itself, so it won't go anymore without pressure. According to Autolite instructions, we're going to turn it 1/2 turn. Okay friends, I got all the new coils here. I like to take some dielectric grease and I like to put a little bit inside this boot here. And I'll take my screwdriver and I'll just spread it around inside the boot. That just helps to keep moisture out and prevent the boot from sticking to the spark plug. Now we can just slip these in one at a time. Take your bolts, push down on the coil, get the bolt started. Take your ratchet and just hand snug all the coils down. Before I plug this back into the coils, I'm going to put a little bit of dielectric grease inside those connectors. Mount this electrical bracket, cover, whatever you want to call it, down. Put the 3 bolts in. Don't over tighten this because this is all plastic. You don't want to crack it and break it. At this point, I recommend you start the vehicle, see how it runs. No more stumbling, no more misfiring. It's actually really, really smooth. Now that we know everything's good, we can go ahead, put this cover back on, and tighten the bolts down. And just like everything else, you just want to snug these down. That's all there is to it. Pretty simple once you know what you're doing. Like I said, you could move those coils around. If it's still number 3 misfiring, then you know you got another issue somewhere else. Also, when you do coils, make sure you do spark plugs. Very important. You don't want to put new coils on old spark plugs that might have an issue, and then you burn out your new coil. One last thing I want to say is, if money's tight, like it is for most of us, you do not have to replace all 4 coils. You can replace just the one coil that's bad. So keep that in mind. Comments or questions, put them down below. Like I always say, I'll get to them as soon as I can. Take care.